You're listening to Psych with Mike. For more episodes or to connect with the show with comments, ideas, or to be a guest, go to www.psychwithmike.com. Follow the show on Twitter @PsychWithMike or like the Facebook page @PsychWithMike. Now, here's Psych with Mike. Welcome into the Psych with Mike library. This is Dr. Michael Mahan, and I am here with Mr. Brett Newcomb.
Hello again.
Yeah, so no one would have any reason to know this, but we live in St. Louis, and this is, for context, the week of the election, the Friday of the election. Results are still coming in. But for us, yesterday, it was summer, and today it's winter.
Yeah.
Literally, yesterday it was summer.
75 degrees, 78 degrees yesterday, 42 degrees.
And today it's winter.
Yeah.
That is...
Missouri.
That's our life in Missouri.
I moved to Missouri in 1969 to teach school. And one of the things I learned very quickly was if you don't like the weather in Missouri, wait 10 minutes.
Yeah. And my wife had said that, and this actually was true, that it was going to snow on Tuesday. So they originally had snow possibly in the forecast. Now it's been taken out now. But they originally had snow in the forecast for Tuesday. And I'm like...
For next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to get down below freezing over the next couple of nights. It's going to be in the 40s during the day, but it's going to be, but you know, I mean, we are the third week of, or not quite yet, third week of November. So technically, it's not surprising that we could have this weather, but it just felt like it hit us all of a sudden. So do you come down on daylight savings time on a particular...
No, I don't care.
Okay.
Not my horse. Don't have a horse in that race.
I don't, other than people act like time is a natural phenomenon.
Well, I remember when they created, as a historian, I can tell you, when they created daylight savings time, there were marches around America.
Oh, I remember in the 70s.
Signs.
Yeah.
No, it was earlier than that. It was back in Franklin Roosevelt's administration.
They did daylight saving time in the Roosevelt? Oh, I didn't know he'd been doing it.
But people had signs, don't mess with God's time. Mm-hmm. You know, they thought it was an imposed universal constant. Well, obviously they didn't travel much. In that time frame, most people never moved more than 50 miles from their home.
Right. And obviously time is not a universal, I mean, it's a man-made creation.
Yeah, it's a construct, artificial construct.
Like money. But the reason why we've been on this natural time for 10,000 years is because the circadian rhythms of humans, they aligned with the solar clock. Yeah. And so if there is a time that is most beneficial, it would be standard time, because that's what we've been doing for 10,000 years. But so I don't even understand how people have that argument, but anyway.
They had the argument because they want to assert their control over the universe.
Exactly.
And they decided that it would make more sense and be safer to have little school kids out on the corner waiting for the school bus in daylight. Mm-hmm. And that it would be better economically for energy consumption if you had people have the ability to go out after work and sit on their front porch and talk to their neighbors and still have some daylight. So they shifted the daylight hours to fit that parameter and changed the clocks. And then when daylight changed, because the Earth's axis tilted, they moved it back.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
There are places where it's objected to, places where it doesn't exist.
Right. But I'm just saying, if we're going to argue for not turning the clocks, because I would love to not turn the clocks. Don't
mess with God's time.
I would go back to standard time, because that is the most natural circadian rhythm of human beings. That's why it's standard time.
And I would say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. I have other things to worry about.
Sure.
So that's not going to reach my event horizon as a concern.
Mm-hmm. So what else do you have to worry about?
World hunger, world peace.
Oh, I thought you were going to do a transition, because you're a professional. So
well, that's true.
You're the master of the segue.
Where I worry about insecure attachments? Is that what you want me to say? Yeah. But I'm not insecure in my attachments.
Well,
But there are people who want to be attached to me that I'm...
You either know people who are insecure, or you have treated people who have insecure attachment.
Yeah, I just tell them to be more like me. Mm-hmm. You know, like, what was that Jungle Book? want to be like you. Yeah.
And we all know how that turned out.
Want to walk like you,
Yeah.
want to talk like you.
Well, the great apes wanted fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, which they proved they were incapable of
But
handling responsibly.
Phil Harris just wanted the bare necessities.
Yeah. 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 There is a certain simplicity that is attractive in that philosophy. The bare necessities.
Yeah.
So do you believe, well, I guess I shouldn't say do you believe in attachment styles. Do you feel as though you used attachment theory to inform your clinical practice, or was it something that you
That's
knew
a
about?
great question.
Yeah. Thank you.
As a clinician, going to school to become a clinician, you are taught all these theoretical understandings, all these theoretical interpretations of the human psyche, the human personality, the evolution of change and emotional regulation, all that stuff. And you're given labels and terms so that you can create a framework in your own mind of how you understand what people suffer from and what can be done to help alleviate that suffering. Then you go to work. And then a real person actually comes in and sits down in your office, and you look at them and say, "Hi, why are you here? What are we doing? What are we looking at? What do you want to talk about?" And all those other things are just way in the background of if they're in your consciousness at all, because you're now doing an interactive dance with a real person who's in real pain, who's suffering from one thing or another. And you're trying to get a handle on it. What's going on in your life that isn't working for you? And what are the things that we might be able to do to address that so that your life is working for you better, if not perfectly? And you step back once in a while and dig in your files and say, well, how do I understand this? Are there labels that I can apply? But to me, it's never really important or relevant to point all that out to the client. Look, here's what I know about attachment theory, and this is, when you look at your relationship with your grandfather, this is caused by that and the other. That to me is a waste of time and money.
So here's why this is important to me.
Yeah.
We did, and I don't know if this other show will come out before or after this one. So
Well, we'll have to speak to our editor.
yeah, if that person had a brain.
Yeah.
But we did a show on letting go.
Yeah.
And I had in that show revealed to you that I was in this process of revising my foundational understanding of psychology from what I had always believed, which was that your personality was pretty set and unchangeable, to a more moderated and
that's a great clinical philosophical question discussion.
Yeah.
But it's not good therapy.
Well, but so no, right. Yeah. But so in my work of working through that, what I've was thinking about is, when Bowlby and Ainsworth, Mary Ainsworth, John Bowlby, who were the originators of attachment theory as we understand it, when they were coming up with this, I think they were very clearly in the camp that your attachment was going to be pretty immutable, that you had that from birth and socialization, and you were going to live with that. But I'm wondering if the conversation that we had about letting go points to a more flexible and potentially fluid personality, then attachment would also be fluid. That even if you were insecure in your attachments as a result of your experiences in your family of origin, can you process that to a point where you could be more securely attached?
I think you're arguing apples and oranges here.
Okay.
So when you say attachment theory presents us as immutable and unchangeable, then to me that says you're screwed. Life can't change. It won't get better for you.
Yeah.
I believe in that. I do therapy because I believe life can change and it can get better, and you can handle things that you don't think you can handle. You can handle loss, you can handle grief, you can handle shame, you can handle depression, you can handle all kinds of things if you choose to and learn how to.
And so can you move from an insecure attachment style to a secure attachment style?
Yeah. through the journey
Okay.
of self-attachment.
Okay.
You have to reparent
Okay,
yourself.
tell me about that.
You have to reparent yourself, and the scripts that you learned as a child that you internalized about, you're too stupid to do this. You can't be a doctor because you're not bright enough. You can't be a lawyer because you can't read. Well, learn to read, learn to talk, learn to argue, learn about debate. And there are things that you can do to challenge the destiny message. So I don't believe in attachment theory. Is interesting, and it's an interesting way to understand where does this come from. But I go into therapy believing that therapy is possible
Right.
for improving the quality of life and the behavioral spectrum that
Yeah.
you use to navigate the quality of life.
I don't know if I've ever told you this story,
I don't know.
that I was expelled from high school.
I don't remember that you told me that.
Okay, so when I was a senior, and we don't have to go through the circumstances that led to this, but I ended up being expelled from high
Yeah.
school right at the end, like
So,
within
so
months
what you're
of
telling me is
graduation.
people have been saying not you
Yeah,
all your life.
Yeah, and the principal,
Yeah.
his name was Mr. Had. If you're still alive, Mr. Had, and you're listening to this, I appreciate your guidance, even though I don't agree with your methods. He was a spitter. And so I was in his office, and he was like, he'd get real close to you, and he'd just scream. I mean, this was the late 70s, back when you could do this kind of stuff. And he was just going freaking off on me and telling me that I would never amount to anything. I'd never go to college. I'd probably never hold down a full-time job. And he didn't want me in his school, and he expelled me. Then my mom got all upset and smooth things over.
She didn't do the Sally Fields thing.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, you don't know Run, Forrest, Run?
I mean, I've seen Forrest Gump, but I don't remember.
Sally Fields helped the principal see that Forrest should stay in school.
No, through
Sleeping with him.
sexual favors.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure that's not how. But basically, the accommodation that was made was I had enough credits to graduate in December, but I didn't want to. I wanted to stay and have prom and stuff like that. And so the accommodation that they made was I would not come back to school, and they would give me a diploma.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
I don't know when that happened for you, but I grew up in the 60s. And, for instance, there was a rule in my school that if a girl got pregnant and got married, that for the semester in which that happened, she had to be given all Fs, irrespective of her grades, irrespective of her capacity to achieve grades. She had to be given Fs. Why? Well, because and the Vietnam War was going on. And if you got in certain levels of behavioral distress, they would kick you out of school. And then the judge would say, you can go to jail or you can go in the Army. So society used to have levers that it would use to force you to comply with what society thought was appropriate.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily about you as a person,
Right.
but it was about your ability to fit into the community and be contained appropriately.
And so now, circling back around to the question of attachment. So, I think that we get a lot of messages from society, just to your point, that are about control. And those can be...
Boys that got girls pregnant didn't get bad grades automatically if it became known, and
Right.
they didn't get kicked out of school.
No.
They weren't given
Well,
Fs.
I mean, obviously there was a double standard. But those things can only be relevant insofar as the individual buys into them.
Well, they're relevant as far as the system can enforce them.
Right. But like, so when Dr. Had was screaming at me,
Yeah.
I mean, he was saying a lot of things. I didn't really buy into anything that and now obviously I would.
He didn't have a therapeutic approach.
Yeah. And none of those things ended up being true. I mean, I have held many
Right.
full-time jobs. I did go to school. I have been a productive member of society. What I'm wondering is, do you see those things? Because at the time I was goofing up. I'm not saying that I wasn't. Do you think that those can be valuable? Those external messages, are they ever helpful?
They can be.
If they promote the person to want to be different.
So I think you have two questions that have to be addressed. One is what's helpful to the community in a larger system, and what's helpful to the individual within that community. The community that I live in wants me to not trash my neighborhood, wants me to pay my bills, wants me to be a responsible citizen, to drive appropriately, to help the downtrodden, whatever I can fit in, as long as I'm in the frame of being a good citizen. That may or may not be in my own personal immediate frame of what's good for me right now. What do I want right now? So I have to find a balance point where I can pursue whatever I want within the framework of the system, or am I willing to accept the reaction of the system if I say no? If I say, no, you can't tell me not to get a tattoo of a swastika on my forehead. I'm going to do it because I want to. Then if I'm ostracized by the community, if I'm arrested, or if I'm given tickets by the police for being profane or what have you, am I willing to pay the price of that? Am I willing to say, put me in jail if that's what you have to do, because I'm going to do this behavior because I want to?
So are you willing to accept the consequences of your behavior?
Yeah.
And if you are, then they can't stop you from doing anything.
Am I willing to challenge the system, understanding that the system will react? And so either I can outsmart the system and promote change within the system, or the system can grind me down.
Right.
So if they put me in prison because I wouldn't go to the war, am I just going to go to prison, or am I going to run away to Canada? That was a question a lot of people were asking me in my generation. I never had to answer that question because the system allowed me a way to avoid to go. I got married, and I had a child, and I had a job as a school teacher. All of those things were offset by systems that protected me from the draft.
Right.
So I didn't have to go.
So let's go to our break, and when we come back, we're going to get more into the weeds of this article on attachment.
Okay.
Hey, Brett.
Yes.
What's your favorite thing about Psych with Mike?
The opportunity to engage in mental gymnastics with you.
Wow, that is really powerful. So,
it's fun.
Do you think that that's beneficial for other people?
I have no clue. I would hope so, but I have no clue.
So people should write us and let us know.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That would be great.
Especially if they agree with me.
As always, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike. Okay, we're back. And so there are 4 attachment styles. There's secure attachment, there's ambivalent attachment, so there's 4 attachment styles. Secure attachment, insecure ambivalent, insecure avoidant, and insecure disorganized. Do you see yourself in any of those?
No.
Okay.
I'm securely attached.
Well, but then you see yourself as securely. So you see yourself as...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I see myself as ambivalent. So why don't you... you can just read this if you want to, but why don't you read the different types, and then we'll talk about how psychology thinks that those different types evolve in us.
I'm not sure what you want me to read.
So the types of insecure attachment, starting with avoidant.
Let me find it.
Okay, I thought you were hot on it.
I'm close to it.
Yeah.
I was just reading the insets, the colored paragraphs. Adults who develop an avoidant attachment style often had a childhood experience where their parents or caregivers were emotionally unavailable in a way that left them feeling unloved or rejected. They may also have dealt with their caregivers being distant, closed off, or especially hurtful and dismissive when they felt they needed care the most. This would include times when they were scared, sick, or hurt. So, yeah, I had that happen.
Yeah.
But I don't think...
So then read the ambivalent.
Ambivalent attachment develops when a parent or caregiver is inconsistent with their responses to a child's emotional needs. This could mean that a child's caregiver would sometimes be emotionally available to the child, while other times they would be cold and closed off. In this instance, the reasons behind the inconsistent emotional love and support provided by the parent or caregiver isn't fully understood by the child. They don't understand why they receive love on some occasions and not on others.
Yeah.
Therefore, they grow up being fearful that they won't get the emotional support or love that they need at any given time.
And then the disorganized.
Followed by the disorganized system. Disorganized attachment develops when a parent or child giver is consistently neglectful of their child's needs when they are in distress. The child is in distress.
Yeah.
Some parents or caregivers may also use tactics of fear and intimidation to make the child refrain from expressing their emotions, such as yelling at the child to stop being upset. You need something to cry about? I'll give you something. In some cases, disorganized attachment can develop because of verbal, physical, or sexual abuse as a child. The child still feels connected to the parent or caregiver, regardless of the abusive acts, but is fearful of them. This leads to the constant swing between wanting love and fearing for safety.
Yeah. And so the reason that I had you read those is because we always have some article that I send you that is the basis for, or the jumping off point for our discussion.
Yeah.
I thought that these were particularly well articulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, we come back to the fundamental question of what are we doing here? If this is in pursuit of theoretical clinical understanding, as a trained clinician, how do you understand so that you can recognize when somebody comes in and presents in your office, here's how my life is going, here's how my life went, what's wrong with me? And then you have to come up with a label or a diagnosis or a treatment plan. Having a frame to shine their information on helps you develop a roadmap. But you have to remember the roadmap is not the client. You have to pay attention to the client. You have to hear the client. You have to factor in this information in your understanding of the client. But the client is much more, the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts. So you say, well, okay, let me ask you, given that all this is true about how you grew up and what you experienced as a child, what's going on in your life right now? How does this connect? Are there things that you could do differently? Does that start with a mental understanding or redefinition of terms about whether or not you're lovable or desirable or attractive, happy or unhappy, angry or sad? Can we do things if you're angry to reduce your anger, to redirect your anger, to manage your anger differently? Can we do things if you're sad to deal with your sadness, your loss, grief, whatever it may be? Can we talk about that? What can you do? What can be done to reframe the way you experience life and the way you behave in life? And then will that change the consequences that you receive?
Yeah. And so for me, the attachment styles are useful, particularly when I'm thinking in terms of couples and the kind of interplay between them.
Yeah, the dance they do with each other. Yeah. What were you looking for when you met this person?
So for theorists who have extended, so these the Bowlby/Ainsworth attachment theory is for infants, but they've done, projected this out into adulthood. In adulthood, the ambivalent attachment style is called preoccupied, and the avoidant is called dismissive.
So I get hung up on all those.
It doesn't matter what the terms are. Yeah. But for me, what's important is the way in which conflict is used in the relationship.
Yes.
So for the ambivalent, they use conflict as a way to attract their partner into intimate interactions. And
I used to manage relationships by being passive aggressive. I mean, I wouldn't give you what you wanted from me, but I would keep from you the ability to accuse me of that by being dishonest and charming and in denial.
So then the dismissive uses this conflict as a way to gain distance. So if you have the preoccupied ambivalent person using conflict to attract the partner, and the avoidant dismissive person using
the avoider, the pursuer, the avoider on the curve. Yeah.
And we see this all the time in therapy. People are going in this circle. One person is chasing the other person. The other person is trying to get away. They can't understand why they can't
get on the same page, or get in the same zone. There's a overlap window where things are better at the bottom of the curve, but then they start drifting in different directions.
And so when you present that to people and they start to see how that is playing out, it can be really, really helpful. Now, the only way that it makes a difference is if somebody's willing to do something different.
Yeah. Which is a discussion in its own right. And an example that comes to mind is chick flicks. my wife doesn't want to go see Rambo movies with me. She wants me to go see True Love movies, Three Coins in the Fountain or something. So I don't like those movies. So I say, well, then you have to do something that comes part way towards who she is or what she wants to be a partner in the relationship. Would you consider going to the Three Coins in the Fountain? And he says, okay, I'll go. But then the whole time, he's making negative comments, he's moaning, he's sighing heavily, or he gets home and he says, okay, I did what you wanted, now do what I want.
Right.
That doesn't work.
But
that's not an honest effort.
But when you go and you're carping and moaning the whole time, that's a passive-aggressive action. So you've passively gone to do what she wants.
Being dishonest.
But you're not giving her what she wants, which is enjoyment of the movie. So passive aggressive.
Yeah, she's paying for it.
So when people are, because a lot of times we'll talk to clients and we'll say, "Oh, that sounds very passive aggressive." They act like they don't understand what that means.
Which is also passive aggressive.
Which is also passive aggressive. Yes, but it could also be true. I mean, people may not.
No bullshit. They know.
Well, but one way in which you can see passive aggression is just in that example. You passively agreed to do what she wants, but you're not giving her enjoyment of it.
When they say, I don't understand, I don't see it, how can you say that? That's, again, a reflection that in therapy, whatever they do in their real life, they do in therapy. So there's an opportunity to say, this is an example of pretending to go along to get along, but refusing to allow me to take the steps. I'm still shackled by the limitations that you secretly impose on the relationship.
Right. So. Yeah. My wife got what she wanted in the whole, and in that aspect of chick flicks, but maybe too much of it, because I go and I cry the whole time. Which then, and it's not passive aggressive. I mean, you know me. That's just
a whole other channel of distress.
Yeah. So she can't enjoy it because I'm blubbering like an idiot, and she's always very, very self-conscious about it. Do other people in the theater hear me crying? Yeah.
Well, she may well sit several rows away and throw popcorn at you.
Believe me, that has happened on more than one occasion where she has separated herself from me because I'm crying too loud.
Yeah.
So I'm going to the chick flick movie. I'm even enjoying it, but enjoying it in a way that reduces her ability to enjoy it. So, yeah. But it's not passive aggressive. It's just the way I am. I mean, I'm just very emotional.
That's what they all say, Mike.
Oh, okay. But, okay. I feel like that's different, but I'm not going to.
Well,
I won't push the point.
It might be.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, they're two players.
Right.
She also has an agenda and behavior. And her reactions to your tears might be part of that. So I think you're going to need another month worth of sessions.
At least.
Pay me every week to come in.
At least.
We can make progress.
Can I write that check in advance?
That'd be a great idea.
Yeah. Because I know you're putting that Italian tile in your bathroom. So
there you go. I need that.
You know what? I have never asked you about this question.
Uh-oh.
And so obviously we're on the tail end of this, and I think that the clinical discussion about the attachment disorders or attachment styles is very good and relevant. But where do you fall on that continuum? Because I've had many clients come in.
Which continuum?
The one about payment in advance. I've had clients come in and say, "Oh, I just want to write you a check, and then you can draw off of that until it's depleted, and then I'll write you another check." I've had other clients say, "Can I just pay you for 3 months of sessions in advance?" I feel really conflicted about that. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, I'd love for you to pay me in advance, but on the other hand, have a hard time accepting that money when the service hasn't been provided. Where do you fall on that? Do you think that's
wouldn't do it?
You wouldn't do it. Okay.
No.
I don't like doing it.
Then you become a salaried employee.
Yeah. I feel like that's a power thing.
It is.
Like they're saying, okay, I've got so much money, I'm paying you in advance. Now you work for me.
Yeah.
You feel like that too?
It's not the same. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't do it. And ethically, I was taught you're not supposed to.
Yeah. I don't know that I'd ever heard that ethically say don't do it, but I try and not do it because I don't like the way it feels.
No.
Yeah.
Different. I won't go there. Never mind.
I just know that I had a guy. He was a legitimate. He was a gangster. He got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
It was in the early days.
I may be in jail, but I want to hold my spot.
Online booking. No, I mean he was out of jail. I mean he had served his time and done and not done anything that 3 other companies hadn't done. He was just the guy they made an example of in the early days of online bookkeeping, and he had just a ridiculous amount of money, and that's what he would. I mean, he would just want. I mean, that was the only way he could do it. He'd just write $1,000 check and then say, "Let me know when it's run out." And for him, it legitimately wasn't a power issue. That's just the way he thought. I mean, he was but I didn't like it, and I've had other people ask if they could do that, and I've always said no because it just doesn't feel clean, does it?
No.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you're thinking about starting a practice, our advice would be don't accept money in advance.
Pay as you go.
Yeah. The music that appears in Psych with Mike is written and performed by Mr. Benjamin DeClue. If you have any questions of us or would like to send us a message, you can always get us at psychwithmike.com. If you would like to support the show, what we are asking you to do is to go onto the interwebs, find us on YouTube, Psych with Mike, and subscribe to the show. Go on to Apple Podcasts, find the show, and leave us a rating and a comment because that helps other people find the show and is very much appreciated. And as always, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike.